Hey, welcome in traders. Today I'm going to be breaking down the top stock picks for this week. This is SPY on the daily chart time frame. All of my analysis will be done on the daily chart time frame. So here's what we have going on. This nice uptrend. You see I've drawn this upward trend line here connecting the beginning of this rally to each dip, dip, and dip on the way up. And you see just recently we are breaking this upward trend line. So SPY has pushed up so far that it's reclaimed this 200 EMA, which is this blue line on my screen. It's reclaimed the 200 EMA. It actually gapped up and has not tested that 200 EMA as a point of support. So what we know to be true is that old resistance here can become new support there. So what we're looking for this week, at least on the overall market, especially going into the early part of this week, is a continuation short from where the stock market's currently trading at. So for SPY, we're simply looking for a break below 421 and a pullback to retest or possibly retest this old resistance as new support. So a break below 421 is what we're looking for the move down to about 417.5. That's going to be trade idea number one. If 417.5 fails to hold as support, this now becomes a gap trade idea. All right, and that gap is going to be that disconnect between this candle and that candle right there. If 417 fails as support, there is a chance that SPY comes all the way down to about 413 to fill that gap. Because at that point, it would be losing the 200 EMA as support. It would be losing this resistance as new support. It would be losing the gap area as a support. All right, so that's going to be a fairly big deal if 417 fails. I think that what we can expect, at least going into Monday, going into tomorrow and the early part of this week, is probably going to be a continuation short down. Just given that this run recently has been so extensive. All right, so that's number one on the watch list. SPY, short idea under 421. I don't know that I would necessarily be interested in taking it long until it gets back up here around 428 or so. Number two on the watch list is going to be CGC. CGC. This is a pot stock name that has recently gained a little bit of momentum. I like it because it's showing at least some relative strength against the market. You know, it was up while the overall market was down. CGC kind of just does its own thing. Here's the deal. We got a breakout of this ascending triangle formation above the 50 EMA on higher volume following the earnings report, right? So that looked good. Pulled back, kind of tested that 50 EMA as support, and then pushed, pushed up higher. It's having a lot of trouble right now breaking the level shown here. That's going to be the $4 level. So for me, CGC is going to be a side chart item that I'm only interested in trading if it breaks above $4. All right, so make sure that we're setting our alerts there at or above $4. And if we get a break of 4, we have a potential trade. If not, I'm not even worried about touching CGC this week. Next one on the watch list is Alibaba, B-A-B-A. This has been a name that I've been watching for quite some time as it's just been chopping around and consolidating down at these lows. Alibaba has big support right here at around $80. It's bounced off that level quite a few times and ran back up above 100. Now it is currently forming a descending triangle. That's right here. Descending triangle formation with a flat level of support being 88 and lower highs all the way down. So it's rejected. It bounced up here, rejected the $100 whole number, rejected this 50 EMA, which is going to be this green line right there, and has since made lower highs all the way down. So what we are looking for on Alibaba, BABA, is going to be a break below $88, a break below this support point for this gap over here to potentially be filled. Now I know the gap doesn't start until 87, 86, 70, somewhere around there. but the support is at 88. So what I'm looking to do is take Alibaba short underneath 88, and I'll just be looking for the breakthrough of 87 for the run potentially down to 84 to fill this gap. Below that, if we do get that move, because that would be a descending triangle breakdown, right? So it would look like this. It would be a descending triangle breakdown. It would be a gap fill trade. What I'd be looking for from there is just the continuation short down to 80. Do I think all of that's going to happen in one day? Probably not. But if Alibaba cannot hold that support at $88, I think that we do come down further. Next one on the watch list, CSCO. This is not a name that I normally would put on our watch list, but it has a big gap up or a big gap below, and that's just because of the recent earnings report. So CSCO gapped up, tested $50, the whole number as a point of resistance, failed to break over, couldn't hold up above the 200 EMA, failed to break over, and has started to pull back and begin to fill this gap right here on the way down. What makes this interesting for me is that this is not just a single gap trade idea here. This is a double gap. If I were to extend this over, that is still a gap area from this time frame, from the last earnings report, that was never filled. All right, so I'm looking for the continuation short down on CSCO. That's going to be a break below 48.5 for the gap move down, for the gap fill down. If this does hold support and recovers, I will be looking to take it long above 50. I don't think that we're going to get a break of 50 on Monday or possibly even Tuesday. It could happen, but it just doesn't feel likely given what CSCO is doing right now. I think what's more likely is that we either are going to see continuation short down or we're going to see some chop here. I want to move this to the 5-minute time frame and show you something else also. Where it's trading at currently lines up with the after hours support from the earnings pop. All right. Normally I don't look at the 5-minute time frame when I'm doing my analysis the night prior. Usually that's something that I will handle in the mornings. I do the cross time frame analysis, but I checked this out and I was like, wow, this lines up perfectly. So where the stock is currently trading at, let's just say 48.5. We'll draw a trend line right there, right? That's going to be our low. This is going to start that gap area here. Look at how perfectly this lines up over here with this support, with all of this support, and with this resistance. So a break below 48.5, I think definitely is something to keep an eye on here. All right, back to the daily. CSCO. AMD, next one on the watch list. So AMD has been a really fun one for us and for the Discord server recently. We were fortunate enough to catch a good portion of this run up right here, and it just hasn't done much since. But it's getting to a point where it needs to make a directional decision. This is quite a bit of chop here. We're looking at a few weeks of chop, and it's getting compressed now between this $100 whole number, right? This $100 whole number, and the support point being at 94. It's also being compressed between this 50 EMA, which is that green dotted line, and this 200 EMA, which is that blue line. So a lot of things happening here, a lot of compression happening here. It's bouncing between support and resistance. It's bouncing underneath whole numbers. It's bouncing between EMAs. Something's got to give eventually. Do I think that we're going to get this move next week? Possibly. It's possible, but it's also very possible that AMD continues to chop, right? So what I'm looking for on AMD initially, right, going into next week, is going to either be a break above the $100 whole number here, or a break below the support point here at 94. All right, so a break over 100 or a break below 94. I think either one of those should start off the next directional decision for AMD, and then we can look for continuations from there. Next one. This is Netflix, NFLX, and again we're on the daily chart time frame here. Huge gap, fat gap above. We're looking at almost a 100-point gap from about 330 down to 250. Netflix had this run up, the break of this ascending triangle topside, tested the gap area a couple of times and failed to break over 250. Well, broke over, but failed to hold up over $250. Given that I feel that the market right now is extended and that we're potentially looking at a pullback, I actually don't think that Netflix is going to push up into this gap this week. However, I want to put this on radar. I've already mentioned it previously. I just want to mention it again. Keep your alerts set on Netflix above $252. You can even go a little more aggressive and set your alerts at $250. In fact, I'm going to set both just so the first alert serves to let me know that something's going on. The second alert will serve to say, hey, you need to really consider getting in this trade. All right, so Netflix, gap fill trade idea above 252, set your alerts and sit on it. Once that alert goes off, we have a potential trade. If this doesn't give us that alert this week, if this pulls back or chops around or whatever it does under 250, I don't care. The only trade idea that I'm looking for here is a break over 252 for the gap fill topside. All right, next one on the watch list, WMT. That's going to be Walmart, WMT. This is also a really interesting gap setup idea. It's not your normal gap trade because it has a gap overhead and it's also got a gap below. The gap below is caused from the earnings report. The gap above was also caused from the earnings report. So Walmart, what we are looking for here, since the support failed at 138, what we are looking for here is a continuation short down. So it'll be a short idea under 137 since we're trading closer to this bottom gap here. Short idea under $137, potentially to bring this back down to about 134. That's the old resistance there that potentially can become new support. All right, it's also close to the bottom side of the gap. So it'll be a short idea under 137, profit target of probably 134, 134.5, somewhere in this area, down to the bottom side. If Walmart recovers and holds this area as support and starts to bounce up, I'm not interested in taking a trade on this necessarily until it gets back over maybe 141, starts to press 142, starts to press this topside gap. Cool? Okay, so just to recoup, SPY, CGC above 4, Alibaba below 88, CSCO above $49, $50 or below 48, 48.5, AMD above 100, below 94, Netflix above 252, and then Walmart below 137. Those are the exact trades that I will be watching going into this week. Of course, that's subject to change depending on the market open and movements and news and all of that. But as of right now, as it stands right now, those will be the trade ideas that I'm looking to take positions on and day trade going into tomorrow. Leave a like if the video has helped you out. I want to thank you all for your time. I want to thank everybody for following me along on this $1,000 account challenge journey. The account right now is up to $18,956. So we're almost beyond that PDT rule. Still trading with a cash account, still trading options, and I'm still trading base hits. I'm not doing anything crazy with this account. I had so many questions, asking, Gates, are you going to be full porting the whole account? Are you going to be, throwing 60-70% of your portfolio into one trade? And the answer is mostly no. In the beginning of the challenge, yes, I had to do that a little bit, and that's just because $1,000 is a tough amount to start with. If I'm trying to get this to a point where I can grow it in a reasonable amount of time, I had to use about 50-60% of my portfolio on some trades, not all of them. If you go back and look at the history here, my starting gains were, I think, $50, $30 on some days. It was very, very humble beginnings here. Yeah, $51 on that day, $39 on that day. So even on those days, I was still only using, I think, 30-40% of my portfolio. But as it's growing now, and I have more balance in here, I am able to follow more traditional risk management strategies, and my plan is to still not full port this portfolio. You know, that's just too risky at this point. I don't mind taking the base hits. You see the nice kind of linear curve here in the beginning, and then you can tell you could tell when I started to size up, something switched. I think we hit 5K, and I switched the momentum here and said I'm going to use a little bit more capital now that I've got 5K in my account. But yeah, I mean, it's just been base hits. So we've had a couple of red days. We've had a couple of stagnant days where I haven't traded, but that's part of trading. As long as you're managing your risk and making sure that those red days are easily recouped within a day or two, then you're okay. You're good to go. So again, thank you for your time. Thanks for following me along on this challenge. My goal will be to buy an Audi R8. We'll see if I can get to that point. I still need to make a couple 100,000 though to get there. And if you're looking at this and saying, man, he started with 1,000, he's now at 18,000, I've missed the challenge, I would say to you that you haven't. You have not missed the challenge yet. It's a start at any time type of challenge, because regardless of your starting amount or where I'm at in the challenge, the trades and alerts that I call out will always be the same. We trade live twice a week, and then on days where we don't trade live, my alert room looks like this, right? Where I'll give you the exact contracts, the exact entry price, the exact fill, the exact stop loss, the exact rule that I'm following, the exact sell, all that good stuff. All right. Okay, everybody, take care. Good luck this week. Go make some money. I hope the videos helped you out. Press the like button for me, and I love you all. See you in chat. Later.